Hello, on this video we're going to be talking about publishing media products, how to make sure that your users can access them, view them in high quality, and not run into the little snags that we often run into when we're trying to share things online. So there's two parts to this. We're going to do a little bit of a review of file types, building on what we talked about when we talked about graphics and videos. And then we're going to talk about publishing and sharing different types of applications and such, and how to prevent some of the problems we run into. We all have problems sometimes with them, but there's a few things you can do to test them beforehand to help prevent that. All right, so file types. This is a little bit new. There are two main types of file formats. All right, one of them is this open format. Open formats are file types that are able to be opened on any program that is designed for them. So if I want to create some type of new text editor, I can make it so that it can open and it can read and it can write text files, TXT files, no problem. However, if I try to do the same for a doc or a docx, these are Microsoft Word files, and Microsoft Word, the Microsoft company, has made it so that these types of files are really hard for other programs to interact with. And so they're called proprietary. They want you to use their software to read and to write from these programs. And so they have special codes built in to enable that. Okay, so open files, when you have a file, you can see the extension at the end of the file, and that tells you what type of file it is. So here's some different extensions. You can have a TXT, CSV, JPEG. These are all open. Proprietary, a TXT is a basic text doc. When you create something in Microsoft Word, you can save it as a TXT to make it more compatible with other programs, but by default, it'll save it probably as a docx. Okay. CSV is a comma separated value file. Basically, it's like a text file and it has a whole bunch of numbers or text with commas in between them and certain tab markings. And that makes so that you can open it in a spreadsheet, any type of spreadsheet program. So you can open a CSV, and these are Excel file names, XLSX, XLTX, etc. So you can open a CSV and you can actually save a CSV from Excel, but it doesn't have all the same features that an actual Excel file would have. That you need actual Excel to do, except in one case where Google Docs and Google Sheets has managed to make it so you can open and edit within Google. I'm not exactly sure how they did that, but they figured it out. So that's one exception to this rule. Anyway, these are image files, media files, sound, video, and then HTML is like a web page with different links and such. And then over here we have PowerPoint, which is a Microsoft, and then these right here are Adobe products. And there's tons more file formats than this. These are just the most common. I want to just show you briefly on my computer, and I'm going to have to just close this out for a minute. I want to show you what it looks like from within your file browser. This is on a PC, okay? So this is just a random download file I have. When you open your files, you can see right here that these have like .pdf, .pdf, .gif, etc. that tell me what kind of file they are. And then this column over here actually gives me more details about it if you have that setting on. If I click here on View, you can see that I actually have clicked here. I can take off file extensions, and that takes off that extension name. However, I recommend keeping it on, especially if you're doing more media stuff, because it's important to know what type of files you're working with. All right, so that's that. I'm not sure if my mouse was on while I was doing that, but that's okay. I'm sure you can still figure it out. All right, back to my PowerPoint. All right, so we talked about these in week 4, I believe. These are different image files. So raster images are images that are like a whole bunch of dots, a whole bunch of different colored dots that make up the picture. whereas a vector image is more like a mathematical formula that shows how to make certain shapes. So the difference is raster images, if you keep expanding it beyond the resolution size, it will become more and more blurry because the little dots will become bigger and then it won't be very clear. Whereas a vector image, you can expand beyond whatever it starts with. You can scale it however you want, and they scale really easily. So in order to get the highest quality images, vectors don't work very well with lots of colors and such. But if you use one of these, just make sure that it has a high enough resolution for the size that you're putting in there. And you can go back to week 5 or week 4 to review some of that information and look in your textbook as well, because it provides a lot of information and details about that. If you are going to be sharing anything visual or text-based online, I recommend you save it to a PDF format. PDF is an Adobe product, but for the most part, the idea with this, it stands for Portable Document Format, is they wanted to create a document type that would keep the images in the same places, the text in the same places on any system. So if I open a Microsoft Word file on a different system, sometimes it'll change the margins or move the images around. A PDF stays steady, kind of like a picture does. But PDFs are usually smaller file sizes, and everyone can open them. There's a free reader you might have to download, but the majority of people already have the Adobe Acrobat Reader or another tool that they can open things with. So whenever you do something like a newsletter, or even some images or worksheets, please try to save them as PDFs. Anything you want someone to print out from your website, save it as a PDF. Unless you really want someone to have a really high quality image or something like a printer. If you were actually to send a document to a printer, like a professional printer, and say, hey, can you print out this product for me, then you might want to keep it in an image format. But if you're giving it to other people to download and use, you generally should be saving it as a PDF file. Usually you can go to Save As and save as PDF, or there's some converters online. All right, that's our basic information on file types, and we'll see you in part 2 where we'll talk about publishing and sharing.